Well, hello everyone. I am Christina, the host of Health, Wealth, and Happiness Interviews to Inspire. I want to welcome you to our first panel. We have today with us April, Natalie, and Jan. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Please introduce yourselves.
Great. My name is April Roberts, and I am a professional disability advocate. I'll unpack that in a second. I'm also an insurance agent. I am the CEO of a disability firm. I am in Ohio. I've been all over the country, but grew up in Ohio for the most part, and back in Ohio for the last 20 years. Yes, something like that. Gosh, it seemed like that it's that long. Okay, so I do Social Security disability representation for folks that are filing for Social Security disability. And I do some auxiliary work in that space, such as helping with certain overpayment, child representation, survivor representation as well in that space. I also represent veterans filing for their compensation, certain auxiliary benefits like aid and attendance. And I also help family members, any survivorship or a fiduciary space role that's trying to help a family member in that particular situation. And that's applications, appeals, all the way on up to where things need to go to federal court. I bring in legal partners for that higher end work. And I'm currently running a firm that I had kind of loosely affiliated my firm with. Long story short, we're working on combining those two back together, and I am going to be running all of those under my own umbrella. So we're excited about that. My company is women run, and most of my staff are women and minorities, which is really exciting to show that, when you have that power and representing the communities, it's amazing how much more passion you have for fighting for the communities when that's what your team is made of. And I would say that our clients definitely benefit from that combined zealousy, to take care of our teams. And then, of course, because we end up with a lot of these people that also, after the fact, they need insurance coverage through Medicare and that kind of thing. We stay on board there and help them with those items. So that's me. That's what we do.
Yes. Hi. My name is Natalie Ellis. I am a licensed professional counselor. I've been providing therapy, mental health therapy for over 20 years. About 23 years to be exact, excuse me. So I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a private practice where I see individuals, families, couples. I've done groups. I do workshops. I also do consultations with other therapists. I do trainings out of my office because we have to have trainings every 2 years as well. So I do a lot of things all related to mental health, to speaking engagements, all relating to mental health. My business is Esteem Counseling and Consulting Services, and Esteem is Empower Self through enrichment, education, and motivation, and all of it surrounding, of course, mental health, the importance of mental health. And as you speak, April, of, disability and clients in need of, disability services. Of course, I get a lot of clients at some point that is something that they're going to need, right? Because some of them struggle financially because they can't maintain work because of their mental health. And so that is something that we assist with and guide them through. So I'm all mental health. And again, the importance of self-care, the importance of people becoming aware of their mental health and how of course, their childhood and their experiences has led them to this moment, right? And that's a lot of it for clients, really understanding some of that so they can move forward in differently in whichever way they want to in order to live a better and more quality life, right? Because that's the goal. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm originally from Haiti. I've been here for over 30 years in the US, Boston first, and then moved to Georgia. I have a 21-year-old son, And that's what we do.
Hi, I'm Jan. I am in West Yorkshire in the UK. It's probably not as warm as where some of you are right now. I am a psychotherapist and a spiritual life coach, and I work with women around their hormonal mental health. I chose that niche because it's really personal to me, because I struggled with my mental health. But when I look back, it was definitely in relation to my hormones. And also, I'm a mental health nurse, so I've been a mental health nurse for 34 years. And working on the wards in the UK, I saw quite a lot of women. I worked on an all-female ward. And when I look back now, I recognise that there was so much of the mental health that I saw that was really related to women's mental health, and particularly menopause and perimenopause, and how that affects women's mental health. So I am hugely passionate about it. I see women one-to-one. I also run workshops, and I've just become licensed as a menopause champion with the Menopause Experts Group, which I think are worldwide now, and plan on delivering trainings. I've been asked to do, so I work in the National Health Service as well, a couple of days a week in the over here, and I have been asked to do a training with them. So hopefully I'll be able to spread the passion, so that women get a better deal, really, because I don't think women always get a particularly good deal in mental health services.
I can see that.
See lots of nodding and
Right.
yeah. I don't think we get a particularly good deal. So I want to, and part of my work is actually building women up and helping them realise what awesomeness they've got inside them, and that actually they've got everything that they really need inside them. We just need to pull that out and find it again. I'm a mum of 4. I've got 4 children. At the moment, we've got 4 cats. I'm saying at the moment because we've got a kitten on the way, and we've got a dog as well. So I live at home with my teenage son and my husband. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Isn't this an amazing group?
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
It's so excited. So excited.
I see some common denominators.
Yes.
Here,
Definitely.
In the woman's space, and I see it with my female clients, especially approaching the middle age. Some of these things that you other speaking to, especially with the mental health and hormonal related things, and so underdiagnosed. And sometimes it's I've read thousands and thousands, if not millions of pages of medical records, and I can just identify with a certain demographic, the woman, mental health, the age, and the struggles that hit, and a lot of times too, sometimes with the with the personal backgrounds that they've been through, if they're trauma and things. A lot of things boil up at a certain time in life, and it does with men too, but women it's a little different, because we just women will walk with that and go whatever, and it doesn't have to be that way, because we can just kind of like, okay, we got to get through this on our own. Like that. We are
absolutely
like that.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because it starts very early, because hormone change starts in menstrual. And so these are little girls already going through stuff, and it's just, this is what I think where women were taken for granted, and this is just how we are. This is what it is. So we just power through and push through and push through, but it becomes but it's a struggle, and then we get into motherhood, and then wifehood, and then all these other things, and well, a majority of my clients are women, and we struggle.
Yes, ma'am.
And giving the voice to talk about the struggle. I mean, we'll make it through because we got to. But the space to talk about it, right?
Exactly.
And when you add in neurodiversity as well, so many women I see that get to sort of menopause age, particularly, they're done with masking. I can't do that anymore because I don't have the energy. The hormones have nosedived, and I don't have that amount of energy now to be able to kind of mask.
Keep it together.
Absolutely. So I don't know about what it's like in the US, but in the UK, I think the incidence of women at sort of menopause age, 40s and 50s, going for assessment for autism and ADHD is really growing.
You know, they didn't have the same tools to discover these things when we were younger. Number one. Number two, I think you're right. The whole thing is when you start going through those changes, whether you're just beginning them, you're in the midst of them, or you're okay, that's where I'm at and I'm living with them now. It's, you know, for your own sanity and your own peace of mind and your own spiritual peace. It's like, okay, guess what? I'm done with these, I'm done with the saccharin nonsense. I'm done with the masking. And if y'all don't like it, go find another friend, you know, really seriously. And I think for me, it's every bit responsible for me making the major business decisions that I've made, is living with the fact of my uniqueness, as because Christy can speak to my uniqueness. She knows that from when we were girls. But it's the fact that it's just, all right, if I'm going to succeed, I'm going to have to do these things. And I'm not being sexist or any of that kind of thing, but these men, especially men that are a decade and a half older than us, you know, it's like, don't hand me a doll, because you're not going to see what I want to do with that doll if you give it to me. And I'm going to assert where I'm important and I'm needed to this. And if I'm not appreciated, I'm not just going to walk away. I'm going to go and redefine myself over here and watch out, because guess what? I'm bigger than you. I might not look like it, but I'm bigger than you. And you're not, you know, and I think a lot of women just feel like, you know, well, I only have so much permission. I only have so much permission to do the things that are, they might even see all the options in front of them, but I better pick and choose the things that I have permission to do.
Yeah.
And I've really found that, especially in this last growth experience that I've gone through, is that I don't need anybody's permission. You know, if it's legal, I'm doing it, and I'm taking care of my team, my employees, I'm taking care of my clientele, I'm taking care of my family. And I'm not going to let somebody tell me, this is what you have to, let me define for you what your space is. And I think all of that kind of fits into, you know, empowering women and letting them understand. And it's not even a feminist thing. It's nothing about that.
No,
it's just
not at all.
about know what you have, and it's, you know what you're capable of doing. There's a reason we were the ones given the ability to bear children, because really we are the stronger ones. And there's a reason that historically societies were, you know, maternal.
Restrict us. Yeah. And yeah, lots of restrictions too.
And it's fear of that power that
it is.
You know, it's
Absolutely.
fear of that power. It's fear of that power. And you know, and it's just the way that it is. And we allow that fear of that power because we do have a weakness and that softness and that loving side of us. That's where we're vulnerable. And if we recognize that, we can step over that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Jan, you had commented in our interview too about an issue that you had with your boss, and you said, boy, I was bullied, but I wouldn't let that happen. You know, to that note of, you know, you hit a point where you stop, you know, always being yes, everything's yes. It's like finally when you find the no, it's time to say, let's stop.
Yeah, and no's a complete sentence.
Yeah.
I've just written a post about
that. I'm getting that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, it should be, shouldn't it? I've written a post about that on social media today and said that no is a complete sentence in the self-care language. Because I think as women, we often will say no, or we'll say maybe, but then we'll justify it. It's no because of X, Y, and Z, and actually we don't.
We'll write 7 paragraphs about how we're going to be sweet about it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but
Absolutely.
How many times
not,
we accept that from a male counterpart? No, not right now. Oh no, I don't like that idea. And they march off.
Right.
yeah,
And we
Right.
don't like somebody like Meryl Streep's character on The Devil Wears Prada, where she's like, "Tit, tit, tit, tit," and that's all she had to say. Is she really a bitch? No. Maybe
Right. Right.
but
we all
how
we
many,
all wish we could be that way. It's like
uh-huh,
you can be that way and still there's nothing to be ashamed of when you're asserting yourself. So I think
no,
that
exactly.
we need to have a whole thing. A no is a complete sentence. We need to go somewhere with that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was
I like
interesting what you said then about was Meryl Streep's, because it was based on fact, wasn't it? Wasn't it about one of the editors of, was it Vogue or something like that? And she was called quite often, wasn't she? And how many times are strong, powerful, assertive women called bitches?
Mm-hmm.
And where did that word come from? Because it sounds very like witch to me, which is
Mm-hmm.
maybe slightly controversial, but
Mm-hmm.
which is what you were saying, April, wasn't it? About that women were powerful and were strong and probably were the glue that kind of held the communities together, and then it was stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
And
think
we
that's I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish.
no, that's it. That was just going to say we were kind of held down and we were squashed and told no, you can't do that anymore because
Right.
actually we
Right.
need this position for the men now.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think you're absolutely right. I think as women, because we are the glue,
Uh-huh.
right? And so we try to keep the peace. And so with that too, we're trying to accommodate so much just to keep everything together at the sake of ourselves, right? And that's
Yeah,
typically what happened. And a lot, we become the sacrificial lamb. And as
yeah,
a result, it does play into our mental health and our physical health and all of our health and wellness. I think I always tell a lot of my clients, because like I said, the majority of my clients are women and girls. Men's lives don't change as they go through stages of life. They continue to do what they do, right? They get married, they continue to hang out with the boys, they have children, they continue to still do, travel, whatever they do. But as women, our lives change with every aspect of
they
things for
don't
us
lose
because
an
we have
ounce
to
of
make those
playtime.
decisions. Huh?
They don't lose an ounce of playtime.
No, they don't lose an ounce of anything. But as women now, here we are stuck with trying to figure things out. What do we do now with we have kids, careers, and a lot of my women clients, these are go-getters. And like you said, we're definitely redefining what women is supposed to be. And so these women are trying to do a lot and trying to do everything, yet we're still mothers and we're still wives, which is a big, big role in both of those in itself, right?
yeah,
And those two roles
absolutely.
stops a lot of other things,
Uh-huh.
you know? And that's that reality. And so for a lot of women, in terms of their mental health, how to be the good wife and also be a good mother and trying to do the business and just for their sanity, I'm like, we can't have it all at once.
No.
And that's that reality, right? Unless
Mm.
you and your husband really have a good plan. But the men are continuing to do what they do, and we're the ones who's having to make these kind of choices and decisions.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's tough. It's tough.
Mm.
But we're definitely redefining things as women.
I think so. Yeah.
And to that note, Natalie, what advice do you give to people who are going through that, the feeling of, I'm not good enough, I can't do it all. You see these super women and they're doing all these things, and I know it's just an image,
Mhm.
the reality is much different, but what kind of things do you
Well,
advise?
but it's interesting though that image becomes a lot of people's reality, and especially now with social media, right? I know everything that's happening. We know everything that's happening, and so we see these women doing great things, not knowing the truth, right? But we're assuming this accurate, right? And so a lot of my women struggle with, so and so's doing this, so and so got that. How come I don't? And I have to let them know we don't know what's really happening with them, but let's look at your life. And a lot of it is about, again, which is why I go back to the background and go back to people's upbringing, because our upbringing dictates a lot of how we're going to see the world and view the world, right? And so when you have a lot of women who, if this isn't happening, then I feel like a failure. If this is, then I'm a failure for this. And so redefining what does that really mean for you? And so a lot of traumas and a lot of things that they've gone through, we have to kind of work through and process to create a different narrative, because the narrative of how you see things and how you see the world, how you view yourself in this world is going to dictate everything. A lot of times as women, we view ourselves as, well, I'll say this too. I think I always think about my grandfather. My grandfather had my grandmother, and of course there were other women, right? But back then all the siblings got along. Everybody got along, all the women got along. And I think now women are trying to not be in those positions anymore. They're trying to be self-sufficient, be independent, yet at the same time we want love, we want children, we want all these things. And so we're trying to figure out how to do it all. Yet there's only still 24 hours in a day, right? So as you become a wife, there's still 20, as you were by yourself trying to handle your own stuff, it's 24 hours. Now you're a wife and yourself, there's 24 hours. Now you have one baby, 24 hours still, another baby, 24 hours. And so there's so much. And really what I often have to tell women, whatever you're feeling, it's valid. It's okay to feel it. Don't feel as if, oh my God, why can't I handle this? And I'm like, that's a lot to handle. That's a lot to handle. And that's relative for everybody. But for you, it's a lot to handle. You're not wrong. Right?
Absolutely.
And so really validating how they're truly feeling and letting them know it's okay. It's okay to wish you had your old life back. I have women all the time, man, before kids, before husband. Oh wow, life. Yeah, it's okay to want that and wish that. Right? But we're here now. How do we make the best of it? So just validating some of that, because women do end up in a space of guilt, face of feeling bad because these aren't things that's talked about, you know.
Yeah. And if they
what
are
women
talked
feel.
about, they're not listened necessarily, are they? They're not necessarily heard by people.
Not at all. Not at
The
all.
media doesn't help. The media tells you you're too fat. The media tells you that you have to be this kind of a mother. The media tells you you have to wear these kinds of clothes. The media tells you your house has to look like this. And the media tells you that you have to have this kind of a background or you were immoral and you can never get past that. And what people don't understand is we're allowing this completely, and we've let it become its own live entity, but really it's this non-God, or however you want to look at spiritual, non-universe created reality. Come out of the garbage DNA in our brain of this thing called the media, that dictates to us how we should be. And it's very, very good at instilling fear and instilling doubt in those that they know that it can. And women are particularly vulnerable to that. And you have to ask yourself, who is really judging me? And and I think the most important thing and I try to tell the ladies on my team this, when they're having a rough time, it's like, listen, all right, that person sitting next to you might seem like they're judging you, but if they're being particularly snobby and judgy, that means they're terrified of you. Number one. Number two, that's
their problem. Absolutely.
They're more self-conscious of themselves than you are even of yourself in order for this dynamic to even take place.
Absolutely.
And especially for young girls to understand that, I think we all remember our moms telling us in kindergarten, oh, that's because Billy likes you, or that's because Susie wishes she could be like you. But that is the truth. And we forget that as we grow up and as we get older and we get into this world that is so busy that in order to survive this society, we can't take the time to take care of ourselves. But I don't think, and we can all say, times were simpler, but I do a lot of history studies, and I don't know that there was ever a time people in this society really got to care for themselves and do love or nurturing. And I'm certainly sure that the women out on the Pioneer, didn't get to take a bubble bath and, put bath salts and light a stick of incense and meditate. At least we can do that for 10 minutes a day. So it's a matter of just finding that, balance and, and trying to teach each other and encourage each other to do those things, to find that center, because all of this nonsense that we see with TV, this, like I was explaining on my first little thing that we did with Christy, it's a lot of sock puppets. And that we think are those monsters. That's all they are.
Absolutely.
And it's so easy to get distracted by those things and let people let other people, our equals, the same people in the same crab net, stuck in there with us, trying to dictate to us what our value is.
Yeah.
And that's what we're allowing.
Yeah.
And it's like, what really is, what really is making you feel that you are more valuable than me, and really that, and we can't allow people to do that. I try to help my team with that. I try to help other friends and clients with that, and say that, if you're going to focus on those things, healing is never going to
Yeah, you got
start.
to find your own worth. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You and knowing you're worthy because you're here, right? And going back to what you mentioned, April, with spiritual, and that's a big piece of things, because at the end of the day, we are all different. We're, we all are here for different reasons. And when you know that you are meant to be here and your worth, that's it. So your worth can't be dictated based on what someone else says, right? Because everybody has their own definition of what that is based on their own thing. And sadly, because again of our own vulnerabilities, our need to be liked, or want to be approval, we want approval, because of trauma, so many layers of things that leads to a space where I want to be accepted. And then being accepted, then right, the validation. And so, if everybody's over here and this is what I need to do to be accepted, then we do it, and not listening to our true self. And so we have a lot of work to do, internally. And so when I have clients who choose to come in, I often say, thank you for coming in, and definitely thank yourself, because that that healing journey, it's a journey, and it's a constant journey, because there's so many things are coming at us that we constantly have to fight, but then when you're in that step where you're trying to be aware, you're trying to do the work, then you have a better chance of trying to of getting what getting there. But I remember when you were talking, there's an author that wrote this book, Your Body's Not an Apology. And a lot of it is because about those social constructs, and those social constructs of, you have to look a certain way. And so she's a Black woman, and she's a dark-skinned Black woman. She has no hair. She's a big woman. She's LGBTQ. So everything about who she is doesn't fit anybody's construct, because, you're supposed to be thin, you're supposed to be light-skinned or white, you're supposed to have long hair, you're supposed to be a certain way. And so she doesn't fit anywhere. And so all growing up, it's always, I have to apologize for who I am, because that's how she's made to feel. And that's typically how we're made to feel when you don't fit the status quo, right?
Oh,
You have to apologize for
Yeah.
just being different. And you are constantly feeling bad. And a lot of people are struggling with that, right? Feeling different because you're not in the space where you can't be your true self. So yeah, absolutely. And recognizing all that is fallacy, fake. Don't fall into it. Right? And she talks a lot about that, because it's a money making for the beauty industry, the surgery industry, plastic surgery industry. I mean, it's all by design, right?
Yeah.
For money, right? But and making sure people don't fall for that stuff.
She's amazing. I heard her talking. It was on a podcast, I think, about 3 years ago.
Sonia Renee Taylor.
Fantastic.
Yes, she is. And the premise of her book, it's The Body's Not an Apology. A guide to radical self-love. And so again, with clients, it's about how to get to that radical self-love, because it's not about perfection, right? It's not about any of that, because we're not that, right? But it's loving yourself, your true self, with all of your flaws, with all of who you are. And I'm putting flaws in quotation, by the way, because again, who's defining flaws, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I struggled for many, many years, and because I just was not, I was not your typical girly girl. I was I was a clown. Because I couldn't pay attention. I just wasn't I couldn't sit still. And ADHD, what? And I was very creative, and I just wasn't, I absolutely could not be like the other kids. I tried, and if I tried, I failed miserably. And so, okay, I'm just going to be silly, because if everybody's laughing at me, then then okay, we got a consensus. It helped me develop an amazing sense of humor throughout my life, because I got good at it. But at the end of the day, it's hurtful, because you feel, all right, if I'm going to feel like I am ostracized over here, because they didn't know what to do with me when I was little. They just sit me in a corner in the desk over here, away from the other kids, because they didn't know what to do with me. So, all right, so fine. Now I got to define that space, because I refuse to be called a freak. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to make this special, the April has entered the room, whether she made her hair stand on end and made her face all silly walking in, hey, I'm here, but there was still a lot of pain underneath of that
Sure.
mask,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it made me a great performer, it made me a lot of things, but, I try to, I try to explain to people that, it's not such a bad place to have your own unique space, because then you aren't worried about trying to fit in with everybody else anymore. Then you are just, and you might stumble into things that are your own, and you need to take advantage of that from that perspective. Unfortunately, that kind of self-esteem issue, it took me a long time to get where I am today. I didn't have a nice little trajectory upwards, but that's the whole thing is, I have clients that I'm helping. Well, look at you, you're the president of a company. I'm like, yeah, well, let's talk about where I was 25 years ago. And, and now where I'm at today, and I think I can use that to give inspiration. Hey, if I was there and I'm here, you can as well. And a lot of it isn't just saying, I'm done. I am going to make the conscious decision that it is going to go another way.
Yeah.
It's going to go, this is done. I've had it. The great and powerful self has spoken here, and I am going to I'm going to redefine this, because I'm tired of y'all telling me this and that. If that's what you think of me, I got to cut you out my life. And if you are the people that are bringing the drama, unfortunately, I have to step away from your life. I mean, some people could even look at it religiously. I know this is kind of a weird way to interpret this, but what did Jesus say? If this is going to cause you this and this, cut it off. That's, I think, what he meant by that. Not cut off your hand. If this situation is going to keep you from finding that spiritual or finding your full development, you got to cut it out your life. That could be the wrong friend, even toxic family. You've got to break that habit, whatever that is, or that attitude you have about yourself. Cut it off, walk away from it. New things are there, and you will find them. And so, and I think it gives my clients hope. And I don't tell them all this, and I don't tell them details, but, just say, hey, look, where you're at right now, you're struggling to keep a roof over your head because you're sick, this and that and the other thing. But there is another place beyond this. And this is how you get there. And if you keep telling this situation that it has the best of you, it's got the best of you. If you keep telling that situation, no, it does not, you can literally manifest something better for yourself by little things. Just start taking care of yourself,
Absolutely.
Soak your feet in the morning instead of sitting there like this with a cigarette, little stuff, and I think that, there's been some female clients that have been able to get through, and then encourage them as well. You need to get the mental health too. Well, but it's my back that's bad. It's my legs that's bad. Yeah, but that's a lot to cope with. You're used to
it's all connected.
Whole life. You need to go and help somebody. You need to go see somebody to help you cope with that major change. And a lot of people's marriages blow up in the middle of these, proceedings and everything else. So they need somebody to talk to. Absolutely. And it's amazing how many people's families are not there for them through this process. So you've got to have somebody. And sometimes even if their family is great, you still need somebody outside of that circle to speak with, to kind of. So, I think, I think people, especially, I think women need sources, grassroots sources to look to say, okay, here's some regular women out there that have really, they've made it through this, and they're not necessarily watching some, and this is a great thing. And I think this stuff's inspirational too, but the TikTok mom that, okay, my house used to be a disaster and now it's not now, and this is how I fixed it. I think those things are great, but I think taking it a step beyond that and saying, there really is, broad spectrum success for you if you just stop, with one perspective of yourself and life and your expectations, and quit worrying about what somebody else can do for you, or thinking that you need somebody else to do for you, or, well, but they just won't approve me for this, or they get the theys out of your life. get the he's out of your life, but that didn't work for me. Get all those things out and just start with yourself and do the little things and, you know, what that can bring for you. And that's what worked for me. And it has worked for just me advising a few clients on, hey, try this on for size and run with it. Where I've had ladies call me back years later going, you need to be a counselor too. But I'm like, that's not really what I think I'm qualified for. But just to hear, in a couple of gentlemen too, where they hear that their lives are, they might still be getting disability benefits, but at least they're making the most of that, or they've got a hobby that's really nurturing now, or just they're content. It doesn't matter how much money they have. Contentment is everything that it's about. So
Absolutely.
To the therapists, how difficult when somebody comes to you? I mean, I don't think it's an easy decision to make for some people to admit that they're going to be vulnerable, or they are vulnerable position where I have all these emotions. I need to talk to somebody. What kind of steps and what kind of process do you see for people who actually are on their way to before they can even make that phone call to you?
I think that's really difficult one to answer, I guess. I think it probably depends on the person. It's not, I don't know what you think, Nathalie, but I think that everybody has their own kind of journey towards that. And some people, it will be that they need to hit a space where they can't go any further. They're either, they can't go any further down. But other people will recognize that actually this is this is getting too much. I can't do this anymore. I need somebody else. And I get a lot of people coming to see me saying that I've got family around me, they're great, but I don't want to burden them. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to put too much on my family as well, because I don't want them to feel like I feel. So that, it's easier to come and speak to somebody else. And I know that you can deal with it because that's what you do. But then you'll get other people who literally will come and sit in the room. I've had people that come and sit in the room and not actually be able to verbalize what's going on for them, because they've got to the point where somebody else has said to them, no, you really need to go and see somebody, because you've not recognized yourself that actually things are getting so much that it's like there's a pile of doo-doo on top of your head and it's weighing you down so much. So yeah, I think everybody's got their own journey, and I think some people will recognize it themselves and other people will have somebody else kick them up the butt and tell them to get themselves to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the younger generation, with the age of social media, and mental health is becoming more popular. We're speaking on mental health a lot. And so particularly for the younger generation, they're recognizing something doesn't feel right, they're the heavy burden, the weight, I need to talk to somebody. So I have a lot of teenagers who's telling their parents, yeah, I think I need to talk to somebody. I think I need to talk, so you're getting kids, you're getting young adults who's, yep, I think so. I'm recognizing something doesn't feel right, or I'm struggling here, and that awareness is coming and they need to get that work done. And then again, like you said, with some people, they're put in position where they're forced to, because they hit rock bottom, or somebody, their stuff is happening in their homes and their families that they're going to have to go, and somebody's saying you got to go. But either way, with all of it, it is intentionality. And so, like you mentioned, both Jan and April, it's the healing and to be in a better space, whatever that is for you. If you want something different, you have to be intentional about it. It's not just going to happen. Right. And so I think people just think things will just get better. And not to say things can't, because time can potentially make things better, but there is an intentional effort in the direction you want to go. But if this is what you're doing every day, yeah, more likely in a year from now, this is what will still happen. And that's the real talk. And so when people do come, once I thank them for coming and saying you're making such a good decision, because again, mind, body, soul, everything's connected. Our mental health is connected to our body's connected to our mental health, and our spiritual health. Everything is connected. And so once you start doing this journey, it's an intentional journey in every way. And so the more you are aware of what you need, the better. And at that point, people start to feel empowered, because a lot of times people feel powerless, right? When you have that weight, you feel burdened, you don't know what to do. And so, like was mentioned, but there are things you can do. Don't focus on what you can't. right? Because oftentimes we do focus on the things we can't do. We focus on what we can't control. You can't control that. So of course that's why it feels like it feels bad. Because no matter what you do, you can't control that part. That's not what you can control. So you can't focus on that. I like to use this analogy. Life is like the ocean. The ocean's full of waves, right? And so we could wait for the wave, and here's a wave coming, and then we fall, waves. There's always a wave, big wave, small wave, right? That's life. There's always something. But with the ocean, the only way to face the wave and be better prepared for the wave is to be the best swimmer you can be. If you learn, focus on how to swim, then how the wave come doesn't really matter how it comes, how big or small it is. If you could learn to swim, well, that's the thing with life. Don't focus on the next bad thing because there is going to be one. There's going to be something. That's a given of life. But if you're working on your wellness, if you're working on your mental health, if you're working on your spiritual health, your financial health, if you're working on all your health, if you're doing your part, when that comes, you're in a better position because that's coming. That's coming whether you're sick or whether you are healthy. So why not be healthy when it comes? Right? And that's what I really tell people. Why not be in a space where you're healthy when it comes? Because it's coming. No one is immune from life. No one's is immune from things happening. There's always going to be something happening. But don't worry about that part. Your part is working on being your best self. When you're your best in every aspect, when that thing comes, you're in a better position. And that's where our energy lies. And so oftentimes I do shift clients from thinking about the problem, thinking about all this over here, and let's focus on, okay, what can you do? You have control of your life and what you could do. Like you said, the soaking, the self-care, the going to the doctor, the taking care of yourself, the doing this, the doing that. What are the small things you can do? That's where your energy lies. And that's where we find our power. Because we could do that, but waiting for that next thing, and then, oh, there it is, it came. Because it's coming. And then you're constantly tired. And that's what happens with clients who have that mindset. They're constantly tired because they're always fighting something. Because there's a lot to fight. There's that bad thing that you're waiting for, it's there. On a daily basis, there is a bad thing. But again, there's also all this beautiful thing. There's also so many beautiful things as well. How do we shift the energy and empower yourself there? Right. And so a lot of it becomes a shift in people's thinking, in their narrative, because people, we do focus from a space of lack, from a space of fear. That is where most people are, and people who are in those spaces, yeah, their life feels different because again, you're constantly afraid. And you have every reason to, because there's constant things out there to be afraid of. But if that's the space you're living from, yeah, you're gonna feel stuck. You're gonna feel burdened. You're gonna feel like you can't do anything. Versus this other person who seems to be, because they're focusing from that other space. That all the bad thing is still there for them, but they're from a different perspective, and that's how they're able to get through that. And so, really, with clients, a lot of it is about being intentional with changing their mindset and changing how they see things and see the world, and particularly how they view themselves in this world. Um, Again, focusing on the things you can control, and that's where we get our power. So
I think that's where the link with what I see, the link with mental and physical health comes in as well, because I think you take the word disease, it's dis-ease, isn't it?
yes.
So if somebody's stuck in that kind of circle of seeing everything's negative and everything's bad and I can't do anything about this, then the dis-ease becomes bigger and somebody's physical health problem can kind of overtake them.
Absolutely.
Rather than being able to sort of say, well, okay, I can control this, and the rest of it will go away. We're not going to be able to make it go away. I've talked to women about things like hot flushes and hot flashes and things like that, and you can't make them go away. But if you think about them in a different way, they won't feel quite so powerful and horrible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think the same for, I've worked with lots of people with chronic health problems as well, who they're not going to think themselves out of the chronic health problem, but they're going to find what they can actually do within that.
Absolutely.
And lots of people run fantastic, amazing, huge businesses with a chronic health problem.
Absolutely.
Because their mindset has changed so much that I was thinking when you were talking, April, about I'd read somewhere somebody that I know who'd written something yesterday about what a lot of people will do when they first get out of bed in the morning, they'll reach for their phone, and they'll look at the phone, they'll look on social media, they'll look on the news websites, and all you see is the rubbish that
Yes.
news sites tell you or social media brings up for you. And if you stop yourself from doing that, put that down and don't pick that phone up and actually get a notebook and write, these are 5 things that I'm really grateful for. You started your day on such a different note that actually
Absolutely.
things feel
Absolutely.
better immediately.
Even if
Absolutely.
it's
Oh, you
something
think
as
even
simple as
people-
being grateful for the soft, warm, dry bed that you're laying in.
Absolutely.
Even if that's the only
Absolutely.
thing you can list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 And the
Yeah.
fact
That,
that you're breathing, the air that you're breathing's good
yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Gratefulness is we take for granted. We take for granted, and again, going back to shifting mindset, people often, and again, I get it. A lot of I work. I'm a trauma expert, so a lot of my work is trauma. So of course, people go through stuff,
Yeah.
right? And that stuff doesn't feel good, right? Pain, hurt, disappointment. We feel those things so intensely, right? And because we feel it so intensely, it starts to take over, right? And so I could stub my toe and my feet hurt, right, for 10 minutes, but now those 10 minutes have defined my whole day. And I often have to tell people, let's take a step back. And I know it's painful and I know it hurts, whatever these experiences are. But at the same time, there's a lot of things we can be grateful for. And I get the things we're grateful for doesn't have a big feeling connected to it, right? And that's the problem, right? When we're comfortable, it doesn't feel the same as um, when we experience something big, which is why people always want big thing, excited, happy, right? Or pain, right? Pain and hurt. Those feel really, really bad. Being comfortable is just comfortable. So we take for granted comfort. We take for granted so many things that oftentimes is where we are, right? And so with that pain or that bad thing is like, well, that bad thing is now consumed the mind. But this bad thing was just an hour of your day. But this hour of your day had now defined 24 hours of your day, right? And so a lot of conversation with clients is, again, shifting some of that, right? And because it's about changing mindset, because that thing is real too, but that's not the only thing though, right? And like you said, with whatever the illness, but that's not the only thing you have. I have a client who just had a hysterectomy, and again, with women's health, right? We got all kind of health, we got all kind of situations. So some women we do get a hysterectomy, and then of course her figuring out whether she wanted to do that, because what does that mean? Is she still a woman if she had a hysterectomy? That's, but then she's bleeding all the time. She's constantly, she's in pain, she's bleeding. So with her research and doctor's opinions and things like that, then it was decided she needed the hysterectomy, so she got it. And then now it's how to move forward, right? And with a lot of clients, and particularly with chronic illness and illnesses, is there's a vision of how we see ourselves. There's a self, and then there's now at this point when there's now something else. There's your old self or your other self, and then now there's this new self with this thing, and grieving. And with a lot of loss, because the loss is a big thing in all levels, right? Death is the ultimate loss, but we go through so many loss when someone used to be healthy and now they have a chronic illness. I don't want to say they're unhealthy, but now there's a chronic illness that they have to identify. So there's a loss of who you used to be, and now you have to accept who you're going to be. And for people, that's hard,
Mhm.
right? And her having to let go of her uterus, right? And so we're having conversation. How do you say goodbye to your uterus? We're gonna have to say goodbye to it so that you can be okay with moving forward and know that you can be great and happy without this uterus. But first, you gotta let go and acknowledge that this uterus caused you pain, although it was yours, but this uterus did cause you pain. That's why we had to, like you said, cut it off, get rid of it, right? And so I get it hurts, and obviously going through all the grieving of it, but we're going to have to get to a place to accept that you can still be a woman and still be successful and great without a uterus too. And so it's just the breaking down of these conversations. And so when people do come to therapy, they have space to talk about that, because things are happening and we're experiencing these things, but it's all up here. It's all up here. It's all in the body, and the body's, and that's how all that heaviness. But when you could talk about what's going on and talk about what you feel, oh yeah, that makes sense. This is how I'm feeling. Then hopefully that some of that weight is lifted and people can take the step to continue to move forward. So
that fits quite well with what I talk about with perimenopause as well, because I think, I mean, to take it one step further, that, you know, the way we're defined as women often is about being a reproductive person. You know, that our usefulness, if you like, is defined by our reproductive organs. And this lady that you're talking about, I can completely get where she's coming from, because I too had a hysterectomy for slightly different reason, but so I can understand where she's coming from. And I think that's partly why I became so passionate about working with menopause, because if women believe that what they're defined by is being able to produce a child, the grief when they hit menopause is massive. And given that the hormones then drop as well, which leaves us quite vulnerable to anxiety often and depression, it becomes you know, such a huge shock. I hear so many women say, I just didn't understand that would hit me, that it would hit me so hard at that particular moment, when, you know, when my periods stop, and that means that I can no longer have kids. So what use am I? You know, I'm just useless. I don't know who I am. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to say to people. And women kind of shrink. And why should we shrink? Because we've got the huge amount of knowledge and experience and just, you know, that awesome energy inside of us.
The older societies called that, there was, you know, the word sometimes has a derogatory term now, old crone, but crone was crone was a woman that had respect in the tribe or the village or whatever. You know, I never had any of my own, you know, and when I stopped, you know, when I reached into where, okay, it kind of bothered me, like, well, you know, it was kind of neat to always have that choice, even though I had some issues. But now it's kind of like, you know, I was spoiled my sister's children, and I did really, really enjoy that. But at the end of the day, there's still so much value to the feminine perspective, you know, and it's in you're older now, and you look at that crone mindset or that crone status, and you're thinking, you know, you can't earn that until you are past that point, and you can look at life through that perspective, whether you've had your own children or not. And our society has lost that respect for that crone, if you will. And, you know, and because they've given such a derogatory connotation to that, you know, mindset. And it's like, and we really need to bring back respect for that. I mean, there's some Wiccan circles and people like that really love to elevate that, the word crone and the status of the crone in their little circles, but it really needs to be more than just even a spiritual thing, because, you know, there's a lot. I mean, think about, we go to our mothers, we go to our grandmothers, we go to our aunties for a reason on serious stuff. We go to the older lady in the office for a reason, you know, and it's not because she's 25 and, oh my God, I got the best blush. You know, we're going to these persons for the wealth of knowledge and experience and guidance that we can enrich ourselves from by looking to them for such. And I think that that's something that I really would like to, you know, see some of us start advocating for bringing respect for that back.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That crone energy is just utterly amazing. And we have I mean, we've talked before about social media, but I think not just social media, the whole media and even the film industry, the roles for older women are so, what are they really? They're really grey, aren't they? I mean, I'm wearing grey, but they're really grey, sort of beige roles, I guess, that just, I mean, there's some, I guess, that are a little bit more, but they don't really embrace the crone energy either. So when women see that, they're faced with this, well, we're just kind of beige and grey and just fade into the background, and we're not showing us that amazing crone energy.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that. I know within the Black community and you know the maternal, the matriarch, you know, women is you know is valued. Older women is valued, you know, and for her knowledge, and so there's that piece of it. All the other hardships she's been through still isn't something that is talked about, right? So she's valued because we know she's been through things. She doesn't talk about the things she's been through because people, I think now people are starting to talk about hardship, but there's a time I think people don't talk about those things, right? And so I think within the Black community, you have your elders and you have the older Black woman, and you know she's been through a few things, so we know she's strong. We know she got something going. You know she has a lot of answers. Um, but the conversation about what the details of those things are, she gives good advice, but she doesn't go into personal information, too much personal information. Um, and so yeah, I think within some communities that's still something very much valued. Like you said, yeah, being able to embrace, now they say the 50s and the 60s is the new 30s and 40s, right? Because we're living old, we're living longer, you know. Again, women are independent. Because and to your points too, a lot of my older clients, my older women clients, again, children grow up, right? Because as women too, children is our energy, children is our focus, children this, but then there's a time they don't need us anymore, right? And when we're in that space of motherhood or in that space of wifehood, also friendships, we don't foster friendships. And so a lot of my clients, I'm like, yeah, go out with your girlfriends, go out with your girlfriends, make sure you maintain those relationships because there's gonna be a time these kids are not gonna need you, right? They're gonna go. Right. And so these women now in their 40s and their late 30s and 40s, children are in college, children are growing up, husbands still do what they do. They do what they do. And they're left with, I don't have anybody, right? And then there's the added menopause, and all these other layers of things that we're often left with questioning. And because again, a lot of our roles have been defined as mother and wife, when we're so much more than that.
I just want to say this was extremely enriching for me. And I think that this is something that I had mentioned to Christy before. Something along this line is something that we need to further develop and make available to the community at large for women, to show ladies out there that they can, redefine, they can redefine themselves and create these roles that we've created for ourselves, all four of us in the communities, to be there, to find nurturing, or I should say rewarding roles, rewarding careers, and help others given our experiences. Because I think the reason that each of us are so good at what we do is because we went through ourselves.
Mhm.
And if we're even if we're not being 100% tell all to clients, we've been transparent with ourselves. And I think that's part of the reason, if not all the reason, especially for me, why I am so helpful to my clients, is because of what I've been through. Is I've taken that, and I'm like, okay, that's the reason I can be so helpful, is because I really know these challenges that they're going through, and I think that especially these days with the changing of what's happening in our world, that being open to redefining yourself, redefining your career, or creating a custom career for yourself needs to be something that women consider and get excited about. And I think if ladies out there are listening to ladies like ourselves, we can really inspire the community anywhere. So I'm really looking forward to doing more stuff like this.
I think this has been an amazing space. I echo everything that April said, really, that I think that this has been an amazing space. And I know things are changing, but it's really slow. And I'm seriously impatient. So if I can kind of speed things up by getting involved in spaces like this, then I'm all for that every single day of the week. And I think this has been just about, I'm me being as well from the UK, and speaking to you three ladies from the US. I don't know whether that gives a different perspective or not. I presume it probably does, but it does show that it's global and not just
Oh yeah.
defined in certain spaces. It just shows that, you know, the same sort of difficulties and the same sort of amazingness happens everywhere,
Yeah.
not just in one particular place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The plight of women, I have African clients, Indian clients, and yeah, the plight of women is it's global,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely. Absolutely. But for me, just definitely, yeah, this has been a great conversation. And the more awareness we could bring to things, the better, so that things can feel accessible to people, right? Because I know there's a lot of stuff happening. I limit my social media space because of my wellness and my mental health, right? But, clients are always giving me information. There's lots of podcasts. Women are doing great things out there. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of great things that people can access. But with accessing information too comes its own, there's a lot of things that come with that too, right? And so, but if, people need to know that there is information, that you're not alone, and that if you need to find it, it's out there. And so the more we can put information about this type of stuff out there, I think that's great. That's just one more information that people can get. So this is really, really great. Thank you so much, ladies. I learned a lot.
Same.
Well, thank you, April, Nathalie, and Jan, for being guests on this panel today. We hope to see you again because your voices are so important on our journey. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.